When Jeff Newton brought his 72 Mark I Escort along to Eastern Creek for filming, he wasn't expecting to dig it out of gravel. Not that he had a lot of choice.
A little bit too much power, wrong gear, just too much speed basically. Overcooked it, camber the road, just took me out. Couldn't stop it, simple as that.
So now knowing where to find the gravel, he had another try.
This is a Mark I twin cam English Escort. Everything within it is within the twin cam era of 1968 to 73. Cosworth engine, minus the twin cam head, forged pistons, the Garrett T3 turbo, fuel injection, which is from a Granada in England. That's all standard issue stuff over there. The only real aftermarket stuff I have on it is the Haltech E6A and aftermarket injectors, Bosch 351s, high flow.
As set up, the Escort puts out about 320 horsepower.
Yeah, I think this car's got a lot of horsepower for its weight. The power to weight ratio is excellent. If I can put that power down, then it would obviously equate to very good quarter-mile times, and on the street, for me, it's perfect.
So to prove the point, Jeff lined up against a quick 2-litre turbo Gemini you'll be seeing later on. Quite a margin and still plenty of rubber left to burn. Unfortunately, overheating remains a problem. The intercooler from a Sierra Cosworth was big enough, but it turned out the upgraded radiator wasn't. And then the handling's another story.
It has a tendency to go sideways and the other way but straight, but if you drive it properly, it handles well. I'm happy with the handling.
So he tried again, this time with a bit less pedal.
Purposely, I'd say I'd build it more for show. A street machine, sort of go-fast car. And if I do some quick ETs in it, 11s, maybe at best a high 10, sorry, I'll be more than happy. It's 18 months of building. We've only done about 500 or 600 kilometres in it. I was very adamant to get it done within 12 months. I'd saved up a lot of money.
Jeff bought the shell 2 years ago for $800, then started spending serious money.
I'd say if I added everything up from start to finish, from sandpaper to bog to paint to clutches, tyres, I'd say all up 25,000.
And recouping that sort of money?
Nah, I've no intention of recouping this sort of money. I built a car to my own specifications, to my own liking.
The Escort had its first competitive outing at the '97 Fours and Rotaries Nationals. Considering its early build stage, it put in a respectable performance.
We had traction problems, but other than that, it was putting the power down well. I can't modify a car to a satisfactory level. I always have to go that little step further. Very low, noisy as possible, as quick as possible. I just don't know when to stop sometimes.
Television cameraman Matthew Allard has filmed his 200SX many times.
I enjoy shooting the car, I made my own video of the car.
Now modified to around 250 horsepower and running high 13 quarter miles, Matthew only considered a 200SX about 18 months ago.
Well, I had a Swift GTI before this, and I wanted a turbo car, so it was basically down between this and a WRX. I checked everything out and I test drove both of them.
But ultimately he decided against a WRX.
It was more of a sort of like a rally car. Whereas this car, you can treat it hard or you can drive it like a normal family car, and it won't misbehave. As you can see, we've got a full Nismo body kit on here. It's just helped a little bit aerodynamically with the car and makes it look a lot better. I wouldn't have bought one if I couldn't have got the kit. I sort of ordered it through Nissan and picked the car up like this. It wasn't after a great big wing, you know, it looks like you can hold your washing on. It's nice but not over the top. The big benefit of having the aftermarket kit with the front spoiler like that is we've been able to fit in a really large intercooler. I had these pipes custom made up, the inlet from the turbo to the intercooler and from the intercooler back into the throttle body. The main thing with these sort of cars is, well, any turbo car, you can't change the boost basically until you change the inlet and the outlet. So if you've got a small outlet for your standard exhaust, winding the boost up will just, the car will just suffocate on its own gas. Then I've got a custom performance metalcraft intercooler that I made up. It can handle big horsepower and big boost. That made a big difference. Now the car holds boost instead of dropping off, and on hot days it'll run maximum boost instead of falling back to maybe 8 or 9 pounds. Put the strut brace in to hold the car together. The suspension on these cars is very soft from the factory. Kept the standard shocks because I still didn't want the ride to be too firm. I've changed the springs, dropped it down 1.5 inches with progressive rate springs. Bigger sway bars, 28mm at the front, 22mm at the back, and negative camber 2.5 degrees in the front. It handles a lot better now.
During the shoot, Matthew picked up a few handbrake turn techniques from our cameraman Rod.
What I do is I double shuffle back to first, but don't take my foot off the clutch until I've snapped the handbrake.
I say put it back into first, but keep your foot riding on the clutch so it doesn't engage.
Don't engage it until you pull the handbrake on. As soon as you pull the handbrake on, just snap it. So
snap it up and snap it down.
So as soon as the wheels lock, dump the clutch, and the car will just rotate. Don't have your foot on the brake when you do that.
No brake?
No, because you'll lock the front, so you want to just lock the rear brakes, and it will just spin.
Okay.
Of course, one lesson doesn't guarantee perfection every time.
There's no point having a car that goes fast in a straight line if it can't brake at the end of the corner or go round the corner. You know, and you can only take it to the drag so often. You know, I've sort of tried to get a well-balanced car, good power, good brakes, good suspension, but not going over the top in any one area.
Bigger wheels were also needed. The standard car ran 205 55/16s.
That was one of the criticisms by a lot of people who test drove this car. For a big car, it had very small tyres on it.
And the exhaust system also came in for some attention.
I had Liverpool exhaust make up a custom 3-inch dump pipe off the turbo to the catalytic converter, and then I've got the 5-Zegen stainless polished steel system, which is 3¼ inch with a 5¼ inch tip, which is good. It's not real loud, but a lot better airflow. Cars are a bit of a passion for me, so I like them to go well, stop well and handle well. I mean, but it's like an addiction. The trouble with cars is that once you say, oh, I'm not going to do anything more, but it's a never-ending story.
After winning countless trophies and spending $100,000 on his 20B powered 83 Mazda Cosmo, Lance Warren's car has a fair bit of history.
My original Cosmo was a 2-litre piston motor. My initial decision was to pull that motor out and put a 12A turbo in. That got stolen and trashed, and a year later I decided to do it all again. So I found a genuine 12A turbo model for roughly 9,000 New Zealand dollars back then in '93. It was a nice smooth motor, and that's what I wanted, but I got sick of the power after a while. I wanted more. I could have worked a 13B or something like that, but I wanted something different. I wanted something that stood out from the norm. I always liked the 91 model Cosmo, the JC Cosmo, and I just couldn't believe its 20B power plant and really liked that. And so I decided that would be the ultimate to stick in, and so we tracked one down and found someone that would actually attempt the conversion, because it's never been done in New Zealand.
The difference between a 20B and the smaller 2-rotor engine is quite straightforward.
Basically, it's got another rotor added on the end of it. What we've done is we have taken the twin turbos off there because we had problems with the twin turbos not operating properly with the factory computer.
A Garrett T04 turbo with high-flow modifications now runs the 20B without a problem. But that wasn't always the case.
We've had some overheating problems along the way of the build, so we've had to incorporate an oil cooler each side of the front of the car to try and maximise the airflow through. Because the frontal area of the car is very pointed, there's not much surface area to let air through.
Then the need for additional fuel injection was solved by simply adding 6 more injectors.
The factory motor does come with 6 injectors standard. We knew that taking the twin turbos off and putting a bigger, higher flowing turbo on, there's going to be a lot more air going through it to the motor, and to compensate for that, we decided to plumb these extra injectors in. 1 or 2 probably would have done the trick, but anticipating a lot more boost in the future, we wanted to make sure we had enough fuel to cover it.
So having gone through 2 sets of turbos, 2 drive shafts, 2 diffs and 2 computers, it was time to match the suspension to the performance.
All the shocks are Bilstein shocks all round, and I've got custom-made level springs. Every bush has been replaced in the car with nolethane bushes, and an HSV Senator LSD has been put in with very tall ratios. You can quite happily cruise at 100 kilometres an hour, about 1,500 RPM in 5th gear.
Which should be relaxed enough to glance at the seats and confirm how many rotors you have. The Sparco 17-inch wheels with 40 profile tyres are a recent addition.
Yeah, I really like the wheels. They're a change to what I had before. They're a bit small for my liking. I want to upgrade them in a couple of months' time to some 18s with some really wide rims and wide tyres to try and get the power down to the ground. I've got too much wheel spin problem at the moment with these tyres.
In fact, that wheel spin problem led to a bit of drama during the '97 performance car shootout in Sydney.
The lights went green, the car bogged down. As it came out onto power, it just lit the rear tyres up in first, I hooked second, and it just flung out wide, and the car was going straight for the wall. Took my foot off the power and just turned the wheel and hoped like hell that it would pull away, and it pulled away at the last minute. And then I got the power down again, it started to go out sideways again, and I ran over something in the middle of the road. So I was veering over to the right lane on my correct lane, and I ran over the timing mark at the end of the track and broke my left oil cooler. Snapped the fitting right off the bottom of it. Bit of a scary moment.
Although born in Sydney, Lance spent many years modifying cars in New Zealand.
The New Zealand performance car scene is highly active. It's very similar to here. Similar sort of like-minded people doing the same sort of things to cars. But because of a less populated area over there, the scene's not as big, but it certainly is very active.
And to expose the car to a wider audience, the Cosmo has its own website.
The site's been going now for a few months, and I've had 900 people look at it all around the world. And most nights when I get home, there's 2 or 3 emails from somebody in the world that wants to talk about what I've done, or some advice, or where can they get a 20B or something like that.
Of course, spending $100,000 doesn't guarantee you'll ever see it again.
I think I'd be lucky to sell it for $30,000 now. I'd make a loss of about $70,000 on it. So it wouldn't be worth my while selling it, plus I'd miss it too much if I sold it. I'd enjoy the car, I love driving it.
But there's no way he'd do it all over again.
Actually, I am starting a new project, and that's my JC Cosmo, the 91 Cosmo with the factory 20B in it. That's still in New Zealand at the moment, but I hope to have it here within the next month or so. And I'll be doing a similar thing to that, but it won't be as radical as this Cosmo.
For nearly 30 years, rotary Mazdas have been coming to Australia in all shapes and sizes. The first one arrived in 1969 and cost $2,790. It was the R100 Coupe. With a standard 10A motor producing 110 horsepower and weighing only 805 kilos, it managed a quarter mile in 17 seconds, very close to the Alfa GTV6s of its day. And they can still manage an impressive performance. This was at the '97 Fours and Rotaries Nationals. This well-looked-after example has been owned by John for 4 years. He originally had just one reason for buying it.
The power, just the smoothness of the motor.
The biggest improvement over a standard R100 is gained from updating the motor.
It's a standard 12A. I've built it and got it to way how it looks just for like a Sunday cruiser type car.
But that wasn't the end of John's improvements.
Put the Weber on. It originally had a points distributor, put Series 2 electronic distributor in it.
A Series 2 RX-7 also donated the 5-speed gearbox, replacing the original 4-speed. The rot and handling was harder to improve.
Because it's such a narrow car and they've got such a high centre of gravity, the front tends to, under tight cornering, tends to slide out. I've already lowered it about 2 inches. The back end in the wet, it's just ridiculous. You cannot handle it. It just wants to go everywhere.
But one item John did leave standard was the unusual red vinyl interior, a very rare factory option. And if you liked red vinyl, John's for sale ad hit the trading post the week after our shoot. So what can replace a car like this?
Well, I'm sort of making the gradual step. My first car was a 4-cylinder, up to a rotary. Might try V8 next. Fastballs and rotaries I always love. I'm just going to try my hand at that, and then I'll see. I'm pretty sure I'll be back to a rotary.
In 1970, the R100 was joined by the RX2, also known as the Capella Rotary. Using Mazda's new 12A motor, it managed 130 horsepower and surged to a 16.75 mile, almost as quick as the famed Tirana XU1. The suspension was a big improvement over the R100. Gas-filled rear shocks were quite unusual in a Japanese car in those days. Only costing $300 more than the R100, the RX2's performance was so good it won its class at Bathurst in 71 and 73, and there's still plenty around today. The RX2 was produced virtually unchanged until 1978, making it Mazda's longest production run of any rotary in its history. This coupe of Nathan's is a 73 Series 2, identified by the twin round headlights. Its original 12A made way a year ago for an Extend Port 13B, plus a little something extra.
I've got a nitrous injection system now. Well, it's something different, something no one else has really got, really.
The nitrous system runs 50 horsepower jets and provides a noticeable increase in power. The standard brakes are pretty awful, so Nathan made a few improvements in that area too.
He opted for the RX4 disc brakes and front end and jumps in the back. Braking passage so much better now, it's stopped right on the spot.
And he's done a tidy job on the interior too. Those skinny front tyres are intended for serious drag racing, but we wondered if the standard diff with a Ford Econovan centre was really up to the job.
As at this stage, not at the moment, but I want a big 9-inch, you know.
But Nathan's looking forward to more than just a big 9-incher.
Series 6 RX7.
In 1972, the RX3 arrived to sell alongside the RX2.
Rotaries Specialty Savannah 新発売
While the R100 had been dropped the year before, its 10A motor lived on in the first RX3. Initially, it didn't have the power to match the RX2 and could only manage 17.6 second quarter miles. 2 years later, Mazda replaced the 10A with the single Dizzy 12A. Although still slower in production form than the RX2, in racing trim its reputation took off. At the 1975 Bathurst race, it came 5th outright. Artistic is well named. It's owned by brothers Nazi and Ronnie, who get a lot out of this machine.
Cheap performance, don't need to spend much money to get a lot of horsepower out of them. Seemed to be a good head turner. And
for good reason. Nazi and Ronnie have gone all out to give this car a unique personality. And it's taken just 12 months since buying it bog standard for $3,000.
Was in a very good condition. Rust in it and standard 12A.
But after spending $35,000, there's not much that hasn't been modified.
Start from the diff, it's got a 9-inch in it. It's got a mini spool, 32 spline axles in it. It's got mandrel bent exhaust, dually straight through. It's got a super 5-speed in it, steel cased. At the front we've got HZ calipers, brand new discs and RX7 strut towers.
However, the first thing to go was the 12A.
The engine itself is a 13V peripheral port. It's got a 51mm Weber on it, an extended fuel bowl, Series 2 Dizzy.
Now with 250 horsepower, quarter mile times have been pretty good and they're still improving.
At our second run we ran at 12.6, so after changing the ratios in the diff and should be able to drop the times a bit more.
Various people dropped into Eastern Creek during our shoot, but Stephen made the biggest impact in his Lamborghini Diablo VT.
A couple of people come on the street and they said, oh, what does it do, quarter mile? I said, I don't know, probably mid-12s. Yeah. They said, oh, my car does 11s. I said, well, let's run. And on the street, it's different than running on the track.
Stephen's Diablo is a 5.7 litre V12 with full-time four-wheel drive and a 0 to 100 time of 4.2 seconds. Its 362 kilowatts translates to 510 horsepower, which is about what you'd expect after paying $500,000. Since we were still filming the RX-3 when he arrived, it seemed like a good idea to let them drag each other. The RX-3 has half the power, but only half the weight. The first drag showed off the RX-3's fast takeoff ability, provided you don't miss second gear.
It was a good experience to run a $500,000 car against a $35,000 car.
So they tried again.
Yeah, it would have beat me top end, but as for traction-wise, it might have had a bit more traction than me. It was surely different. I was scared to pull up next to it in case I took it sideways and hit it. Be paying it for the rest of my life.
In 1973, the RX-4 arrived, Mazda's first rotary aimed at the luxury market. Bigger than its older brothers, it could still turn a 17.4 ET with its twin Dizzy 12A and 4-speed gearbox. When the Series 2 arrived a year later, with a 13B rated at 135 horsepower, Mazda quoted a 15.8 ET. Despite that potential, the RX-4 has almost no racing history. A lone Bathurst attempt was unsuccessful, but it did well in a few overseas rallies. But to owners like Romeo, you can't go past an RX-4.
It's just got its own sort of style. The character is different to the others. More character, more classier.
Like some kind of disease, the car's been passed around the same group of mates.
Well, we've all been friends, we've owned it. And we've passed along to each other and everybody's done something to it wrong. Now we have to fix it up. Actually, I'm probably the last one to have it out of our mates, and everybody's just moved on.
While Romeo hasn't done up the car in a big way, he has made a few important engine changes. The original 13B had been bridge-ported, but he wasn't too happy with it.
That one went kaput and in went the mould port, so Bridgeport's just too loud and like the horses, just too much power.
The mild port now puts out 190 horsepower after swapping the 4-barrel carby for a 48mm Weber.
Better pick up than the 4-barrel, yeah. It's just a bit of a shock that you get from the 4-barrel to the Weber. It's unbelievable. Right. It's like driving something totally different.
It's totally different as having no clutch.
The clutch fork popped out. It's got a bearing on it, on top of the clutch, and so there goes the clutch.
But Romeo wouldn't let a minor problem prevent him getting home.
Oh, just stick it in third gear and just hope it gets home. No stopping.
The RX-4's status as Mazda's luxury rotary was overtaken 3 years later by the release of the RX-5. Based on RX-4 running gear, the RX-5 was longer, wider and 100 kilos heavier. Although successful on the Japanese market, in Australia and the US it was a flop. With a power-to-weight ratio slightly better than a 120Y, that was no surprise. Fat, slow and expensive, Mazda struggled to sell less than 2,000 in Australia, and very few survive today. However, if they'd all been built like Brad's RX-5, maybe more would have been sold.
It's had a 13B fuel-injected intercooled turbo put into it.
The turbo helps it reach well over 250 horsepower.
And it's got the RX-7 Series 5 5-speed gearbox in it.
The 5-speed replaced the original automatic, and you can still see the old gear symbols in the dash. The turbo's running 7 to 8 pounds boost and really gives the RX-5 the power to overcome its weight disadvantage.
The horsepower you got with that engine, there is like a bit of lag like with the weight, but not much. It's actually built for a hill climb.
Brad hasn't run any quarter-mile times yet, but it showed its potential when we ran it against the far lighter R100. Since buying it, Brad's done virtually nothing to the car. All the modifications were done by the previous owner. This particular RX-5 is a big improvement on its early history and a good example of the sort of performance you can buy for around $5.5 grand. It was 1979 before Australia saw the RX-7, Mazda's first true mass production sports car. It was an immediate sellout.
絶妙のコーナリング性能を生むワットリンク付きリアサスペンション。
In the Series 1, the 12A produced 103 horsepower through a 4-barrel carby, giving it a 17.6 standing quarter. When the Series 2 arrived 2 years later, it picked up 4-wheel discs and a power increase to 114 horsepower. Len is the only owner this Series 2 has ever had.
Bought it in '83 and paid $22,500. 14 years later, you can see that it's actually lasted and it's still hanging together. The original engine got replaced with a 13B mild port, and EMS fuel injection replaced the carburetor. What I got out of it was much smoother acceleration, much smoother running, better fuel economy.
And he doesn't miss the old carby at all.
Weber required much higher revs for better and for good acceleration. With fuel injection, basically you can throttle it, put your foot down at any revs, and it picks up without any stuttering.
Len's recent modifications have cost him about $10,000, but his very original-looking car now produces over 200 horsepower.
I love the smoothness, I love the high revs, I just love the horsepower. As a sports car, I'd recommend it. It's fantastic.
When the new Series 4 arrived in '86, the RX-7 concept had begun to mature.
The second generation Mazda RX-7.
With an advanced independent rear suspension, rack and pinion steering and 4-wheel discs, it had more than just its appearance in common with a Porsche. But it was also much heavier, so the 12A was replaced by an EFI 6-port 13B and an optional twin-scroll turbo engine good for 182 horsepower. 3 years later, the Series 5 Turbo had that figure increased to 205 horsepower. It could run high 15s, as quick as a Brock Commodore of that era. Kane bought his Series 5 Turbo almost by accident.
Well, I didn't actually go out hunting for a Series 5. I was actually looking for RX3s. I had a look at about half a dozen of them, and I made a few offers. They didn't come out, and then I saw this, in the paper one day for sale. Went and had a look, and immediately I just thought, I've got to have it. So I fell in love straight away. I paid around $23,000, which is a pretty good buy. I've seen them for a lot more money than that, even non-turbo.
After only modifying the exhaust system, it now produces about 230 horsepower.
It's got a 3-inch exhaust from the turbo back, and then splits into 2 3-inches. Fuel cut dispenser, that's an important component when you do the exhaust on the Series 5. The Racing Beat fuel cut dispenser stops it from leaning out as you accelerate higher, and I've been told that leads to immediate detonation and destruction of the motor, so it's a compulsory item, yeah. Got the small skirt on. You don't see too many of the $600 skirts at the front there. I've had that put on the other day. So as a daily driver, it's great. I find it very reliable. Chews up a bit of fuel, but I've always had RX-7s, so I'm used to the fuel consumption of a Rotary. I would definitely go to a Series 6 or Series 7 when the finances are more stable or when the price drops down.
The release of the third generation Series 6 in early '92 put the RX-7 in a completely new league. Far more technologically advanced than its predecessors and much more powerful, this RX-7 was a pure no-compromise sports car. Featuring the world's first production twin sequential turbochargers, it produced 240 horsepower and a 0 to 100 time in just over 6 seconds. The lighter SP model adds exhaust and computer mods to various detail changes to reach 275 horsepower. Boost wasn't altered and porting isn't required, even for racing. Incidentally, these last 2 RX-7 models have been the only ones without porting modifications. It seems like it's constantly mentioned when you're talking Rotaries, but what actually is porting? Let's quickly check it out. Here's a typical Rotary engine, in this case a 13B. The 2 polished silver sections are the rotor housings. Each has a rotor like this one spinning round inside. Of course, if this was a 3-rotor engine like a 20B, there'd be 3 of these housings. These holes in the lower side of each rotor housing are where the exhaust leaves the motor. They're called exhaust ports. The 3 bits painted gold adjoining the housings are the side plates. The intake port is simply the hole in each side plate that lets in the air-fuel mixture. You can see one here in this open side plate. As the rotor spins, it draws in the air-fuel mixture through that intake port. The standard side intake port will look like this on all single distributor rotaries in American and Australian RX2s, 3s and 4s. Outright airflow is the main limiting factor. When a porting tool is used to enlarge the upper end of the opening, it becomes a mild port. Airflow and top-end power are both increased without really changing its driving characteristics. If we keep increasing the size of the port, we'll end up with an extend port, which is really just the largest mild port you can get. The performance potential is greater, but the idle's getting rougher and there's less torque below 4,000 RPM. By cutting an eyebrow-shaped hole next to the existing port, a bridge port is formed. Without that bridge, the rotor seals would fall out as the rotor travels over the port. The extra airflow increases top-end power dramatically, peaking around 8,000 RPM. By increasing the width of the eyebrow, a J-port is formed. As the bigger hole now extends past the line of the rotor housing's water seal, the engine has a shorter lifespan. It's mainly used for racing. By doubling the size of the second port, you're left with a monster port. The power is increased again, but you need to cut further into the rotor housing for port matching. But for serious porting, stop making bigger holes. This is where you seal them all up. The extreme is a peripheral port. Remember the exhaust ports on the rotor housing? They're peripheral exhaust ports. By cutting another hole above each of these, you've made peripheral intake ports, completely replacing the ports cut into the side plates. This is the ultimate form of porting and is normally used for racing. A peripheral port engine won't idle below 2,000 RPM and produces maximum power past 8,000 RPM with a narrow power band. It's impractical and almost unusable on the street. Incidentally, an alternative to porting is to just buy a Japanese 6-port engine. It provides a wide power band and good high-end airflow. It's a pretty good compromise if you want reasonable performance without porting. Now here's a car where a knowledge of rotary porting will be no use at all. Lisa and Adam went looking for a new car on a small budget and settled on a Hyundai XL.
Nothing was as good a package for the money as this.
The car actually belongs to me. It's my car, but it's his toy, as he tells everybody. Basically, I just let him go for it. Whatever he wants to do, it's fine by me.
There's consultation between us. Not allowed to go too crazy. It's only when the money runs out there's a problem.
So what can be done for about $6,000 when you've already spent $18,000 on the purchase?
Like, we started doing this up when it first came out and nobody knew anything, so everything we've done is either custom made or first one.
For example, the body kit features a custom-made Cosworth-style rear spoiler, a Celica GT4 bonnet scoop, a sculpted front end and 15-inch Polaris wheels.
The motor, we've done the exhaust, the chip and the air filter, which is as far as you can go without upsetting Hyundai too much.
These items add about 5 kilowatts, making 70 all up. That's 94 horsepower.
We had 2-inch exhaust, but we found out that we lost power, so we dropped it down to a 1 7/8-inch exhaust, and now we picked up power all round.
Interior mods saw the seats retrimmed and the addition of an Ital Volante steering wheel, Razzo gear knob and a large tacho. By contrast, check out what can be done when you take these cars rallying. Wayne Bell drives for Hyundai Rally Sport, running a twin cam XL and a couple of coupes.
Everything about this car is designed to be functional. It has a 1.5 DOHC engine and it's putting out around 150 horsepower. Runs through a 5-speed close ratio gearbox with a limited slip diff. 12-inch AP brakes all round, so that it really stops exceptionally well. The biggest limiting factor for power is, of course, the inlet and exhaust. Yeah. If they were free, we'd have 200 horsepower out of this without any trouble.
Jeez. Wayne was quite impressed with Adam and Lisa's rear wing.
That thing there should produce plenty of drag and plenty of downforce. Anywhere from 80 kilometres onwards, that'll start to have effect.
So let's put the two cars together on the bitumen and see how they go.
It's got a very tall first gear, so it doesn't accelerate really quickly from a standing start, but once it gets moving, it rocks along rather well. However, a touch of cheating on Lisa's part didn't help the cause of the rally car, so they had another go. You can see how close their performance really is. And Rod was much happier this time.
When his girlfriend doesn't wave him on early, I'm with him all the way. So he beats me off the line, but I was able to keep with his rear bumper, and then once I got second gear, it was no contest.
Later on, Rod took Lisa out for a quick romp in the mud.
I'm still shaking. It was really scary, but it was good. Very fast.
But their own XL won't be around for much longer.
Our next car is more than likely going to be a WRX, because it'll be our family car.
We're getting married in October, so need a family car now.
You can't believe the power. When you first get into it, the first day, you can't believe it. It's incredible. You'd be scared, believe me, I was.
What scared Tristan was the FJ20 intercooled turbo he just squeezed into his TE Gemini. And it wasn't even his first choice.
Rotary or V6 I haven't tried. A bit expensive. I didn't really like rotaries, but I heard they were quick, so then I got told FJ20s were, good motor, good solid motor. Should have put the motor in sooner, because I blew up about 4 standard motors. So it cost me a bit of money, but it's paid off. It's a good car now. The person offered me $14,000 for it. It's still in the workshop, but I haven't even driven it yet, so there's no use selling it. We'll start it off just in stock form, as you see it now, red with the same wheels. Since then I've just done new interior, just standard, reupholstered, and then dropped the motor in about a year ago. Then since then I put intercooler and blow-off valve, but just the diff's still the same, everything like that. Main thing's just clearing the cross member. It's just something we modified the sump, but otherwise fits in pretty good. The only problem they had is probably the brakes. They were too small standard, of course, so we had to go up to BM.
Tristan competed at the Fours and Rotaries Nationals with some success.
The drag strip, it's a short one, whatever, and this thing doesn't really cut in good power until you hit about third. By the time you hit third, fourth, the track's over. Couldn't really get a good time, It's not a bad day out, really.
And Tristan wasn't the only Gemini owner not having a bad day out. With a quarter-mile time of 12.9, the drag strip is Tristan's main focus.
Yeah, because I don't really want to circuit race it, anything like that. It's just for quarter mile, just, have a bit of fun.
And the handling's certainly a bit of fun.
Not really good. A bit slidey around corners. It's not really meant for round corners, really. It's just meant for straight lines.
But Rod disagreed, so with Tristan's approval, he took it out for a blast.
As long as he doesn't smash into the wall, I'm happy.
Tristan, I've never driven a Gemini with that much grunt before. When you start to drive it hard, though, it does start to get a lot of understeer, and as you can see from the front tyres here, we really start to peel the rubber back.
fairly predictable in the handling. You can control this one on the throttle because it's got such fantastic horsepower.
Almost 220 horsepower, in fact.
For the age of the car and the modifications you've done to it, she's a pretty good package.
Never seen them driven like that before.
Notice how many cars in this video had Momo accessories. Did you also spot that some were fakes? Counterfeit Momo gear, and the owners didn't realise it either. They were conned. Here's a typical example. One of these two Momo wheels is a fake. Can you tell the difference? It's difficult, but there are a few things you can look for. The one on the left is the forgery. Close up, you can see the poor finish and detailing, but the biggest differences are at the back. Shoddy casting of the low-grade aluminium leads to flaws in the alloy and potential weaknesses where you can see big gaps have been filled. This one's not going to last very long. So who cares, you reckon? They're cheaper anyway. Maybe, but it's an inferior and unsafe product. You only get what you pay for. It's not just badly made, it's plain dangerous. When it breaks, there's no guarantee, no replacements and no service. If you think you've found a bargain that's too good to be true, check with Roman Auto Tech in Sydney. It's the only legitimate importer of Momo and Recaro in Australia. Don't get conned. An old Datsun 1600 is a fairly common sight in Australia, but a good one still attracts plenty of attention. Most have seen substantial engine modifications over the years, but the current availability of cheap imported Japanese motors has greatly increased the alternatives. These three examples show what can be expected from a Stroker 2.4, an FJ20 turbo and a Z18 turbo. Todd Hearn's 1600 has come a long way since he shelled out $350 2 years ago, and his choice of a Z18 EFI turbo gives him the smallest capacity of this trio.
As far as imported low kilometre motors go, the Z18 is probably one of the easiest conversions to do. It's got the power, the reliability, good fuel economy, so it offers everything.
Todd bought the motor as a complete package.
The motor came with everything, the computer, wiring loom, basically everything to fit it up and get it running. The 5-speed came with the motor. The only change you have to make is cut a hole in the floor as the gear sticks slightly further back and reverse a cross member for the gearbox. The FJ20 was slightly more expensive. I took an L series out of this, so I wasn't going to put an L series back in it, so the Z18 looks very neat in the engine bay.
But Peter Challenger had other ideas.
Z18s are good, I used to have one. They're a pretty good motor, but for me there's not enough power for them. But I suppose you can spend the money and work them, but I just like the idea of the twin cam. I've always wanted an FJ20. Just the power, there's more potential there. They're reliable, economical. It's not too hard to insure. I've got this fully insured, no worries. We bought the conversion kit from Triple S Automotive, which made it fairly easy, but still we had to modify the firewall and take the battery out. Yeah, it was a bit of a mongrel to get the gearbox in. We've just put Skyline struts in it, put an R200 diff in it, disc brakes on the rear. To do it again, we could fly through it.
The conversion had its share of problems.
A lot of electrical problems. Won't rev over 5.2.
And Peter also had some problems with the FJ20 Gemini we were filming earlier.
Oh, it's alright, but I don't like Geminis, and especially a Gemini with a Nissan motor in it. Oh, it's like an inbred thing. Something that shouldn't be done. Just like a Datsun with a rotary in it.
When Shane Nicholson modified his 1600 4 years ago, he followed another course.
I don't like turbocharged motors, you know. I'm a bit old-fashioned. I think you can make genuine horsepower out of a car rather than Japanese imports, you know.
But he had other reasons too.
It's easier to get them insured, registered, stuff like that.
Slower, so he won't lose his licence either.
Shane believes that size does matter, so he simply took a 2-litre from a 200B and increased its capacity.
Basically the same type of motor that was in it, just a larger capacity. Just used a Nissan Navara crank and pistons for the bottom end, which created the 2.4 litre. Got a Skyline 5-speed, a current model Skyline 5-speed, which is much shorter, so you don't have to modify the floor. The camshaft in the car is slightly bigger. It's probably about a 72-degree cam. It's got
dual carburetors, 45mm Webers.
At one stage, Shane did consider an FJ20.
I was looking at doing an FJ, but they were a lot of money to import at the time, so I took this option, and it's not quite as fast, but it's good enough for the street, you know, it's good fun.
At the recent Fours and Rotaries Nationals, the three guys had mixed results.
I think we qualified for the top 10, but we got eliminated by the four-wheel drive turbos and stuff. But it wasn't too bad for a 25-year-old car.
I received 2 awards, top interior and police choice.
Incidentally, another choice for a 1600 engine swap is a CA18, although these guys were never tempted.
Too slow.
They're a girl's motor. They look plastic and they're just rubbish.
I honestly think that the FJ is a bit quicker, but you know, like I said, I like the old style motor. It keeps the originality of the car.
So let's check it out. Which one is quicker? They're all producing around 190 horsepower, but in theory, the FJ20 should be the quickest. However, Peter found an excuse just in case it didn't go that way.
You know what we're going to see? We're going to see a stock FJ, only revving to 5 grand.
Look, he's already making excuses. Stock FJ. He's making excuses already in case I beat him.
Before giving him the chance to use that excuse, we put the 2.4 against the Z18. That looked a bit too easy, so we tried it again. This time the Z18 did much better, but the 2.4 still flew past near the end. Then Todd took on Peter's FJ20. And finished dead level, so we went straight into a grudge match, the FJ and the 2.4. No contest. The 2.4, ironically the only non-turbo, was the quickest on the day. But to give Peter some credit, the FJ's faulty computer was preventing it from revving past 5,000 RPM. Anyway, while all this was going on, Stephen, our Lamborghini owner, turned up with his wife's car, a Mercedes SLK, looking for another drag.
I'll line him up too if you want.
It produces 190 horsepower, but from a supercharged 2.3 litre 4-cylinder. Peter volunteered again.
I'll give anything a go.
Unfortunately, Peter's faulty computer did him in again. But only a week earlier, fast acceleration wasn't even considered.
A fellow in the club wanted to use it. He comes from the States, and over there they're 5'10" crazy, so he wanted to use the cars as wedding cars, and he said, yeah, no problem.
Not much legroom in the back, I don't think, or I don't think it was her choice anyway.
But even impressive conversions like these have their downsides.
You're always worried about someone bumping into it or putting a scratch down the side of it. Yeah, it's a little annoying sometimes not having just a common car. You can sort of put anywhere and not worry about.
The Impreza WRX needs no introduction, but it's just nice to see that four-wheel drive burnouts are possible. When panel beater Bashir Osman started building his twin-turbo WRX, word soon got out.
Now, I've heard of somebody that imported a twin-turbo engine and dropped it into a WRX, and I thought, geez, that's something I probably would have done about 10 years ago, but they would probably go like the clappers.
Bashir found this one as a stolen and recovered for $16,000 at an insurance sale, then paid $6 grand for a complete front cut from a Japanese twin-turbo Liberty. He added a programmable Microtech digicomputer, forged pistons, a bigger exhaust, Bilstein shocks, 17-inch wheels and lowered it 2 inches. The gearbox, ABS brakes and LSD remained as standard. Compared to the regular 208 horsepower, the increase to 282 was quite a kick. And the subtle interior fits the image perfectly.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Handling beautiful, everything breaks.
Not content with one twin-turbo in the family, Bashir's planning another one for his brother.
Actually, I'm getting another trunk out from Japan because my brother is planning to do a next one.
After only 12 days building it, Bashir's car was finished in time for the Sydney Auto Salon, taking out a number of trophies and getting plenty of attention.
You've got best engine modified, engine bay. There's a lot of nice cars that you can't get all the trophy for yourself.
We couldn't run any performance times at Eastern Creek as the engine computer was having problems feeding fuel for the second turbo. The brakes worked fine. So a week later, with the computer fixed and a standard WRX along for the ride, we tried again. The standard car ran a 14.1. Bashir was saving his clutch and ran a mid-13, but reckons high 11s would be no problem. We're not so sure.
It's going beautiful, but it should go better than now. We're running just for 15-pound boost now.
All right, what will it go up to?
We go up to 20 easy.
While the twin turbo was pretty wild, the standard 97 spec performed much better than anyone expected. We recorded a 0 to 100 time of 5.3 seconds. Bashir's twin turbo owes him only $30,000 so far. We couldn't find any reason to spend more.
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna control myself. This one I'm not selling it. That's my car, I'm keeping it. All my life, probably my kid will take it over.
Brian El Hassan is a perfectionist. His 1990 CRX is a tribute to his skill in spending money in a quest for perfection.
Every week there's something new on the car, and I'm used to it. Because the more I see in front of my eyes, the more money I'm going to spend on it.
And that's not because he's unhappy with it.
I'm always happy. I love it.
Brian's affair with Hondas goes back a long way.
My first car was a Honda Civic 1974 model. And every time I used to see CRX, because it's nice, small and little, and they've got a lot of room inside them. You can do so many things to it, that's why I picked it.
So 3.5 years ago, he bought this one from an auction, badly water damaged.
The motor was seized and all that. I had to rebuild the whole motor, sandblast the whole car.
So far pretty normal. Then Brian started throwing serious money at it.
Resprayed it, new interior, new stereo system, new wheels, new paint job. All up, like every cent I spent on this, probably we're looking about 88 to 91 grand between that much money.
So to show it off properly, he entered the Sydney Auto Salon and walked away with a major trophy.
I picked up just one trophy for the hottest Japanese car in the whole show. I'm pretty happy with that trophy. That's really good.
But no prize money.
Oh, no. Money's nothing, as long as you know, the trophies, that means everything, you know.
And he didn't do too badly at the Nationals either.
I picked up the high-tech slammer trophy. That was really good too.
So let's have a look at where all the money was spent.
As you can see, the whole dashboard's covered by the leather custom made. I've got front Recaro seats both, and I had to modify the back seats like the front ones, as they're shaped up like the front seats. I used black leather and the brown leather, because I couldn't get the yellow.
And the sound system's quite unique too.
It's all custom back box with the electronic back seat. I'm using most of the TX Alpines and high-phonic subwoofers, punch rock with Fosco amplifiers, Kinwood splits and mid-ranges. I've chosen the best out of every kind of stuff. It sounds really, really good.
But we did wonder about the Perspex tubes.
It makes the subwoofers breathe really good, you know? Instead of, there's a lot of pressure on the box, like you might have a chance to crack it.
And Brian still had a few bucks left for the engine.
The motor's still standard on this. All I've done to it is just the turbo kit on it. I've used the T3 Garrett out of the VL turbo, custom manifold. I used all the custom piping with the popper valve, big intercooler from Performance Metalcraft. I used the extra injector 12A, which you can see over here.
And now the chute's finished, Brian's replaced this motor with a 1.7 litre VTEC with nitrous. But one aspect still bugs him.
Well, the only thing I hate about this car is the front wheel drive.
Handling's nice, but you got to take it easy. You got to watch what you're doing.
But one day, Brian and his CRX will have to part.
It's not about selling it. It's hard to sell it. Of course, I can't get my money back.
And then, of course, there's the jealousy factor.
I don't know, like, I hate someone else driving it. That's the thing about me, I love it. But I want to try to get rid of it because it's just making me spend more money on it. And I think anyone can spend 100 grand on these cars, it's not really worth it.
Yet he still has more plans for it.
I'm going to flare the whole body. All that side's going to be flared like that big. Use 8.5 wheels to cover all the space. Make a fiberglass bonnet and guards to make the car like really light.
And when it comes to colour, Brian knows what he likes.
I always love Jetta. I love it. It gives you attention. Like you drive it from far away, you can see it coming. You know, like other colours are just the car coming. But when you see yellow, what's this? You know, you're waiting for the car to see it.
So at the end of the day, there must have been some mistakes.
Nothing. No mistakes at all. Perfect. Everything that I've done to this car, it's came out perfect.